Today we're going to draw this picture of a bucking bronco. So what do you say we get started?
In order to get the feel of the swing of the action, make several practice strokes like that. Then lightly sketch in so that you get the top of the neck and the back of this steed. Make it swing down, something like that. Then rather abruptly drop it around like this. So there you have the general action. You might make several strokes right over the original in order to get the feel of it. Then we'll draw the cylinder form of the neck, the lower edge, and the cylindrical form of the body. Think of the hip back here as being somewhat like an oval form. Get the sharpness of this joint back to the knee. The leg moves forward then, so supposing you just sketch a line of action. For the other leg, draw a line of action that makes one angle and then another, then a slight angle forward. The form of this is cone-like and tapers. Follows the line of action you've already established, and then think of the knee joints as larger ball-like forms, excepting that they are actually a bit angular when you put in your finishing touches. Now we'll just draw these legs down to the ankles at this stage, and we'll develop some more part of the action up front here. Supposing we put in the jaw and forehead, taper the front of the animal's head, the underside like that. It drops off rather bluntly, but since this is a wild horse, let's have him sort of snarling. Cone-like shape for each ear. Think of the shoulder form here as being a rather large oval form chunk. Then the front of the other shoulder over here on the far side. Supposing you locate about where the knee comes and where the ankle and the bottom of the hoof. So sketching in some action to establish the direction of this foot, think of this as a tapered cylinder form, enlarging at the joint, tapering thinner, then widening here just before the ankle, and then the hoof. We might as well put in the hoofs on the hind feet now. Notice that the ankle gets slim below this ankle joint. The leg on the far side is also a tapered cylinder, begins over there, and we'll make it appear from behind the head here so that the joint of the knee shows right about there, then to the ankle, then the slender part of the ankle and the hoof. So you've constructed a horse by using cylindrical and oval-shaped ball forms. Yes, later we'll do more to this tail, but to give action to it, you might use a piece of chalk or pencil on its side to at least start swinging in the sweep of action of the tail of the wild bronco. Now, in order to put our cowboy up here, let's think of a cylinder form for his leg, bending down at an angle, there at the cuff, rounded off, the waist, and more or less wedge-shaped rectangular form for the body from the waist up to the shoulders. Then think of your shoulder forms as having some mass of form like that, and a cylinder of the arm reaches out here and curves, and the cylinder of this arm curves and reaches forward. He's just hanging on to the nape of the neck there. The head of our cowboy would be an oval-shaped form, set on the cylinder form of the neck. The hand in action. And back here you might suggest his hat flying. Think of that as an ellipse, and then a cone-shaped form for the crown of the hat. The pointed shoes. Then some wild mane. Notice I've just used a piece of chalk on its side like that. Then you can start using a piece of gray chalk or the side of your pencil to mass in the general tone on the entire body form. If you're just using a pencil, you'll find that you'll have to put it on its side to cover broad areas quickly. Now I'm going to use a black chalk, and I'll put it on its side like this in order to start shading the surfaces that turn away from the light. We'll have our light coming in from the upper right, so we'll shade the front part of the horse's shoulder, make this leg dark in silhouette, shade the front part of the shoulder here, down the front of this leg, the forehead. It's a rather cube-like form with a rather abrupt division of light and shade. Then some shading here on the nape of the neck, and to show this muscle structure, carry a dark mass right on up to join in with the shadow up here, the shadow that would be cast by the fellow who's doing the bronco busting. With a light coming from the upper right, you see his body and legs. This leg would cast a shadow. Then beneath the form, here on the underside of this cylinder form of the body, you can mask the entire surface quite dark. All of this should fall in shadow right on down the leg, and keep the leg in rather strong silhouette. You know what silhouette means. There's no form of light and dark shown, such as we've shown, say, here and in a few other cases. We ought to have a highlight right here on the horse's shoulder. Now, I'm going to use a paper stomp, or you can use your fingertip to do that, but leave a rather high light because of his shiny fur, and you can use a paper stomp or your fingertip for that kind of toning. And the same on the mane. You can also use a paper stomp for putting in shading and tone on smaller areas such as the figure. Shade the front of the face. Make the cowboy's hair fly as if he were just about ready to leave that pony. But he wants to break him in first. But, you know, a lot of these fellas get some pretty rough treatment on those new wild broncs. Now put a little tone back here. Darken on the surface of this leg and on the hip, leaving a light area here and a light area at this joint. Darken the leg. Now you can do more work on that tail. Notice that you can really make it flare. Put in a little softening tone. Shade inside and under the brim of the hat. And you can add other things like, say, give the fellow a plaid shirt, but let's not forget that a bronco that's jumping like this in the corral would probably create quite a bit of dust. So you can have fun just twirling the dust around here. And then cast a shadow on this surface. Remember that the shadow should lie down like that. Then you can softly blend the edge of the dust, and you can even add a corral back in the distance, but that's about all we have time for. So we'll put the frame on our picture, and I'd like you to take a